So that's another Italian Grand Prix in the record books. Another Max Verstappen win, his 10th win in a row, 15th win in a row for Red Bull. I'd be interested to know what you think. How would you rate the race out of 5? I would rate it. So in this video we review the Italian Grand Prix. We'll go over the salty comments from Mercedes, in particular Hamilton and Toto Wolf, and we cover a surprising trending topic, and that was that the Italian Grand Prix was boring. So yeah, I'll go over that and I'll let you know if I agree with that or if I don't agree with that. Max won the race, there's no surprise there considering he's won 9 races before this one, and it makes it 10, a record which he now holds by himself. And to be honest, I prefer it when someone holds a record. I don't like it when it's like shared with another driver in the past or a couple drivers in the past. So it's good that he's got the record by himself, the first person to win 10 in a row, and to be honest, it's well deserved. He's been operating at a level that's so much higher than anyone else on the grid. He's just delivering week in, week out. Week in, week out, he's managing to get the best out of the package. And even when he's having his poor days, he's still performing a lot better than, in particular, his teammate. And that links perfectly to the first topic that I want to touch on. Well, that's the comments from Lewis Hamilton about Verstappen's teammates and comparing it to his list of teammates. If you're not aware of the comments, basically Hamilton's come out and said that when Mercedes were winning races, he had much stronger teammates. He had much stronger teammates in his career compared to what Max Verstappen has now. And yeah, if you look down the list of teammates that Hamilton's has, obviously before he went to Mercedes, there was teammates with Alonso, who was a 2-time world champion. There was teammates with Button, who's a world champion. And then in his Mercedes career, it was teammates with Rosberg, who became world champion. And Bottas on his day was fast. So yes, if you do compare it with Verstappen and his list of teammates, then obviously Hamilton does have the better teammates in his career. But does that take away from what Verstappen's doing now? Does it take away from the records he's breaking and the driving that he's currently doing now? And before I share my opinion, I just want to clarify that I'm strictly neutral. I don't care about Verstappen winning and I don't care about Hamilton winning. I'm a Fernando Alonso fan, and when Hamilton was winning all the races, I wanted it to be more fairer and all the other drivers. I wanted it to be more about the driver than the car. And when Verstappen's winning all the races, I still want it to be fairer. I want it to be more about the driver than the car. So I'm not bothered about who's dominating. I just prefer it when it's a mixture. 2012 is the era that I remember about Formula One, and it's the era that I was watching Formula One, and that's the first 7 races was won by 7 different drivers. To me, that was the most epic season that I've ever watched, even though Fernando Alonso didn't win the championship at the end of the year. But that's a different story. That's a totally different story. We're on about Max, Hamilton, and their domination in this current era. So for me, as a neutral, I can see both sides of the argument. I can see where Hamilton's coming from, and I can also see like Max's side. Max is absolutely on top of the game and is dominating. He is going to go down in history as one of the greatest of all times. Hamilton's already on that list for obviously winning 7 world titles. He's on that list to be one of the greatest of all times. Hamilton sees Verstappen as not having the stronger teammate currently, Perez, and that is why he's managed to get 10 in a row. Hamilton's argument is if he had like a Rosberg there, then Rosberg would have won a few of the races over Verstappen, so Verstappen wouldn't have got that 10 in a row. So I can see what Hamilton's trying to say, but at the same time, it's irrelevant. It's a pointless argument. But Verstappen is dominating, and yeah. And don't forget, Hamilton did have Bottas as a teammate for a few years, and Bottas was, I don't know, on par as Perez. I'll put Bottas on par as Perez. Admittedly, Bottas on his day was able to produce like pole position laps, and on his day he was able to produce like an awesome performance, one-off races. But you could say the same about Perez. On the street tracks, he's produced some races where he's won, and he's got a few pole positions on street tracks. But for whatever reason, Max Verstappen has raised the game, raised his performance this year, and is a lot better than Perez. And regardless of what Hamilton says, it's well deserved that he's won 10 in a row. We just need to tip our cap to Max and congratulate him on his achievements. But after the race, Toto Wolf came out with even more salty comments, and this was even saltier than Hamilton's. He basically said that he's not bothered about the record, and yeah, it's just a record for Wikipedia, it doesn't mean anything. So that surprised me a lot, because considering like where Mercedes were the last few years and the respectful comments that he was coming out with originally, it seems like Toto Wolf was kind of like influenced with what Hamilton said coming into the weekend, and he just like ran with it and come out of these comments as well. I don't know if it's a way of Toto Wolf like supporting Hamilton, showing that he is on his side, coming out of these things, but I'm sure he doesn't mean the comments, but obviously it's come out as really salty. So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see if Toto Wolf apologises for them. Moving on to my next topic. After the race, I went onto Twitter. I wanted to see what was going on in that world. Sorry, X. Went on to X, formerly known as Twitter, and wanted to see what was going on there. And the top trending topic was boring. And I was like, was the race boring? Did I miss something? Because I swear I just witnessed a race that was, you know, potentially like one of the races of the season. We had a Ferrari at the front that was fighting hard. Sainz like deserved that podium that he got. He held off Verstappen for 12 laps. It was forced into an error, and that's the only way that Verstappen overtook him. He held off Perez an amazing amount, and then obviously he was battling Leclerc for some weird reason. Ferrari let them battle and let them risk like a guaranteed third and fourth position, made them risk a DNF, which I found was very strange. If it was the other way around, Leclerc in third and Sainz in fourth, I kind of feel like Ferrari would have said hold positions, but for some reason they didn't. And deep down as a Alonso fan, I was kind of hoping that they kind of did take each other out. Because if they took each other out, and we ended on the safety car, and there was 2 5-second penalties for both the Mercedes, Russell and Hamilton, there's a potential that Alonso could have got, what, P5 from P9, like 4 cars out, and then the 10 seconds of the Mercedes. But anyway, I was really surprised that I let them race so hard. But like I said, if Leclerc was in front of Sainz, then I got a feeling that they would have been told to hold station. I need to go back and check previous races, but I kind of get the feeling that Ferrari always say hold station when it is Sainz behind Leclerc. But yeah, it was an epic race by Sainz. Sainz said after the race in the press conference that it's the race of the year for him, his best performance of the year, and his best performance in a Ferrari car. So, you know, hats off to him. But yeah, was the race boring? To me, it wasn't boring. I don't know, I'm not biased because I love Formula 1, but to me, it was a 4 out of 5 if I had to rate it. So I'm surprised I went onto social media and I saw like everyone saying it's boring. I took a few screenshots of what people were saying because I thought it might be interesting just to share, like why. Like obviously I saw it's trending and I thought, you know, I got to see why they think it's boring. Obviously I had to consider that Max has won his 10th race in a row, but at the end of the day he still had to do it. Like he still had to overtake and go for the win. It wasn't like a walkover this time. But yeah, anyway, I'll read some of the comments. What's the point of even watching the races anymore when it's just Red Bull show every week, all season? Boring. I can't believe people still watch F1, man. This shit is so boring nowadays. Is this the most boring F1 season ever? No matter who gets pole position, Verstappen always wins. There is no racing for the win anymore. Had enough. F1 has turned into the most boring sport. Literally haven't watched any of the Grand Prix since the first few because what's the point when you already know what the outcome's going to be? Fully done with this season in F1. Nothing can match Max in that Red Bull. At least when Lewis was dominating, he had somewhat of competent teammates to compete with. This may be the most boring F1 season I've ever watched. Another boring F1 dominated by the team and driver, given every advantage they possibly can by the FIA. He's not even half the driver of the other legendary F1 drivers. This must be the most boring F1 season in the history of F1. Those are the few comments, so what did you think? Would you class the race boring? What would you rate it out of 5? I'd be totally interested to know, because I thought it was a good race. I rate it 4 out of 5. And I think we've had 2 awesome races since we've come back from the summer break. Zandvoort was definitely a 5 out of 5 race, or 4.5 out of 5 if you want. And then this was definitely a 4 out of 5. But, you know, I'm biased because I love Formula 1.